Good morning everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Today's video is a very late garden catch-up as well as just a weekly chat. I have some footage to show you of where the fire burnt next door, a few clips from the stay at the evacuation centres and stuff, so all that sort of catch up as well. But I also am out in the garden while it's not raining to try and get some stuff done, so I will show you a few things out here as well. I just won't go as in depth as normal. So the fire started at like 9 p.m. on Saturday night, and it went from being able to see a vague glow to police coming around and saying leave now within like 15 minutes. So we packed the car as well as we could under the circumstances and got out. We went to a community hall for evacuation purposes at that point, and we stayed there for the night. It wasn't too bad. The community hall had a television, DVD player and board games and all sorts of things like that, so it was a bit easier to keep the kids amused. And then throughout the next day they had tennis courts and stuff like that too, so it wasn't too bad. I did pack an esky full of no, that was the next day, I think. So anyway, so we stayed there that night, and the next morning we came home briefly. It's all getting mixed up already. So we stayed there overnight. The next morning it looked somewhat okay, so we came home briefly, but we were home for all of like 20 minutes before we got told to leave again. But in that time we managed to repackage all the stuff that we had thrown together a little bit more efficiently, and I managed to fill an esky. So like I took the bag of cherries that we'd bought in the grocery haul, I took a watermelon, some corn chips, some salsa, some ham and wraps and all that sort of stuff, and threw it, just filled a whole esky full of bits and pieces of food, and got that on the back of the ute, as well as the clothes and important stuff as well. And then we spent the day at the hall because that's where we were evacuated to. And as I said, they had a tennis court and everything, so the kids were kept somewhat amused. DVD, they were still pretty, ramped up as they are, but they were kept somewhat amused. And then by about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the hall was actually in the yellow zone, so they couldn't let us stay there overnight, so they evacuated us to the showgrounds. Now, the showgrounds are in town. I had never been there before. There was a big pavilion and stuff. They have a evacuation trailer that had some mattresses and bedding and stuff that we could use for the night, and we set all that up in the hall and things like that. So the hall was slightly more pleasant to stay at than the showgrounds. The hall was very much a community place, and the showgrounds was very much a council-run place. But anyway, we were grateful for somewhere to go. So we stayed there overnight again until the middle of the day the next day, when we were told we could come back. So we've been back home for a little bit now. Everyone's exhausted. Everyone's just tired and worn out and short-tempered, and it was a long couple of days. At the hall, the first night and stuff, there wasn't really much in the way of bedding, so I let everyone bed down and I just stayed awake. So I was awake for about 40 hours the first time, and then went to sleep the second night, which is fine. We're mums, we manage on minimal sleep and all that. And then once we were at the pavilion, we were better situated for sleeping and stuff, so I slept that night as well. And then we came home the next day, and we've had nights in our own bed, which has been absolutely wonderful. But I am a little behind on food prep. I've got to get the last lot of chicken done today. We did get some chicken done yesterday because we were desperate for real food. The food on offer, other than what I brought, was mediocre. So as I said, grateful for what we got, but yes. So we cooked up some of the chicken for eating, not like the day that I got home for dinner. I did a big batch of the buttermilk chicken up, and we had mashed potato and sauteed greens and chicken, and a really nice meal. But I've got to get the other two things of chicken done because the best before date is today, I think, so because we lost those few days. So I've got to get them done this morning and sorted. But I've also got all that fruit that needs doing, and some of that fruit was a little bit close to, you know, needing to be used when I got it. So I'm glad I didn't get a huge amount of that, though. The mangoes definitely need to have some work done with them, though, preferably today or tomorrow. So we're working on that. So we've been home. There was a little flare up on a tree in the property that had already, part of the property that had already been burnt, not our property, the next door neighbours. So the next door neighbours saved our property, basically. I'll put a link to their TikTok in the comments, because she's got footage of the firebombing, the water bombing and stuff for the fires. So there is I'll put a clip in when I finish talking, but there is a fire break between the two properties, and which is also the driveway / fire break, and they managed to stop it at the fire break. It jumped the fire break in one spot, and there's like a 2-meter circle of burnt ground on our side of the fire break, but other than that, nothing else burnt on our side of the fire break. And we are extremely lucky and extremely grateful to the neighbours for that, because they are what stood between the fire progressing to our property and not. I don't think we were particularly high priority to the fire brigade where we are, because it's only their next door neighbour's house and our house. That's all that's on this side of the road here, whereas where they were was over at the other section, and there is a lot of homes over there. So I think our place probably would have been an acceptable loss to them, which is, I can understand it, but it might not look like much to everyone else, but this is our everything, and if we lost it, then there would be some significant issues. So we are extraordinarily grateful to Trev and Kev and whoever else helped stop that fire. And check out the TikTok if you want to see some footage there of the water bombing happening right in front of them and stuff like that. I'll put that clip in that I took yesterday now. I'll put the clip in now that I took yesterday walking up the fire break, so that you guys can see that. So I'll put that in now. So this is the fire break between our neighbour's property and ours, and on the left is us and on the right is them. This is their driveway and the fire break, and so this whole patch burnt out. I'm just coming to have a look because we've had a lot of sun and not much rain, so I just wanted to check anything that's still smouldering. That tree there is a bit, we got flames of that tree, so we probably need to bring some water over and topple that tree maybe, because there's some actual flames there. So I'm gonna go back and grab some water for that one, double checking anything else. It's in the middle of the burn patch, but we don't want to risk that tree dropping anywhere where there's green, so we'll probably do that. But other than that, I just want to check this big tree up the top here that the fire crews downed yesterday, because it was too much of a risk if it fell into dry stuff. So we've got something smouldering over there too, but that's a pile right in the middle, so that should be all right. And then this big tree here, but it looks okay. It looks like it hasn't lit up at all. So this here is the only patch on our entire property that burnt. Out of the whole thing, they have burned all the way through there. There's a lot of stuff that they lost. They didn't lose any actual possessions or housing or anything else. I'll link to their TikTok in the description, because Susie has put a few TikToks up of footage of while they were putting the fire out, the water bombing right in front of them and things like that. But there's a lot of patches like this on their property that they managed to stop at the fire break, and this one black patch is the only spot it jumped the fire break onto our property, and we have them to thank for it all, because they were it between us losing everything. And I know the house might not seem like much to everyone else, but it's our entire lives, and if we lost it, it would be devastating. So we are extremely grateful to Susie and Trev for that. and everyone else who helped with all that. And we are going to keep a good eye on their property, make sure no looters, and check for things like this little flare up, because they don't live out here full time. So we are watching it all. So yes, very, very close. So there's been some learning from this event too. We had some learning from the lightning strike the other week, and now we've had some learning more from this event as well about how we'd pack, what we'd pack and things like that. And unfortunately, we are going to have to go and spend some money, I think. One of the things that we really struggled with, like, odd thing, but socks. Like, there's 8 of us. So for 2 days, that's 16 pairs of socks. And there's nothing, and it was raining. So there's nothing worse than having damp socks that you've got to rewear the next day. So, you know, I think I will invest in a few different things, some packs of cheap socks and underwear and stuff that can all sit in bags that can be grabbed rather than trying to get them out of the laundry. Last time someone had suggested grabbing the dirty clothes basket or the fresh clothes that just come off the line, because they're obviously the ones that we wear the most, and that is true. We did pack most of what had come off the line that morning, just threw it all in a bucket and made do. A couple more of those big Singapore bags would probably be handy to have too, because we did pack blankets and pillows in those Singapore bags, not the first time but the second time we did, because getting the kids to have sleep was important, and having those creature comforts of their own blankets and pillows was somewhat important to assist with that. And if we were gone for a few days, then that would be even more important to do that. We are going to try and work on building some dog boxes or something on the trailers, because we unfortunately had to leave the dogs behind. There is 8 of us in a 5-seater car, and there was nothing we could do. The dread when we did come back of driving up that driveway and just hoping that those dogs were still in the yard was like, I was just, yeah, that was really hard to think about. We did have incubators running while we were gone, but the solar stayed up for that, though the eggs that were in the incubators are a little bit dodgy this trip anyway, because we got them mailed to us and there was a problem with Australia Post and they didn't turn up for like a week and a half, and it looks like we're not getting much out of it anyway. But at least the incubator still ran, and the heat plate in the brooder box ran the whole time as well. So what else did we sort of... The other things we were talking about was that if we were at dire straits and we had it set up accordingly, then we would consider taking things like the generator and maybe the Camp Chef stovetop and some gas bottles, because the thing is that if the place did burn down, we would still have to live after that. The buildings are made of steel framing, so even if the fire came through here, theoretically we should be able to rig up stuff pretty quickly that while it's still warm. If it was winter it'd be different, but don't generally get fires in winter. Rig up something to sleep in and stuff if we needed in a pinch sort of thing. So yeah, lots of just discussions about what we might need to do and where we might need to assign some funds and things like that. Obviously having a second car would be really great, but we just cannot afford the maintenance of a second car. Like, it's not even the purchase of the car, it's, you know, it's the rego, the tires, the repairs, the services and all that sort of thing, and then you'd have to drive it regularly to make sure that it maintains. And the thing is that whenever we go anywhere we tend to get water, which means that we have to take the ute because it has to drag the water, so a second car wouldn't get driven very much, and it's not feasible at the moment. Surreal is 16 and will be getting her learners shortly, and perhaps once we figure that out we might buy something small, because then there's a purpose to it, but at the moment there's not. And we got all 8 of us in the ute easy enough. The first trip they were a little stressed because they didn't know what was happening, but then when we had to do it a second time they understood how far they were going and what was happening, so they were okay about it. So anyway, enough rambling about all that. I was supposed to do FAQ, sort of a Q&A video, and I haven't yet. And maybe I'll just, for the moment, I'll just leave it for, say, like the 30th of November, because that's my 2-year YouTube anniversary anyway. So if there's any more questions, put them in. Where people have asked questions, I have purposely not hearted or replied to their comments where they've asked a question, so that I can go back and write them down, because I haven't done that yet. And I am a bit behind on answering any sort of messages or comments at the moment. I got a lot of messages on Instagram because I was trying to keep everyone updated in the stories and people replying to that, and I haven't necessarily answered all of those yet because I just didn't have the headspace to do it when I was evacuated, and I haven't caught up yet at home. So I will try and at least acknowledge every comment that came through though when I get there. that's about it. So let's have a look at the garden, something more cheerful. So it has been raining on and off the whole time we've been back, which has been superb for the fires, and everything has gone great guns. We are having a few issues. There appears to be some bush rats or mice in the garden, and I'm finding things chewed off, which is unfortunate. We had a couple of tomatoes that had fallen over in the rain because I hadn't got to them, tied them yet. I've got a zucchini here that's falling over, so I thought I'd film how I'm tying them up, because this is the first year I'm doing the vertical growing of the zucchini. So I thought I'd show you, because it desperately needs tying up, but it's a really good feature of that. So I've got my other camera sitting here. Where are we? Here. So I can try and aim it there, and then I'll just add that clip in because it's too hard to sit the phone somewhere. But I thought I'd show you that. So what I need to do is go through and tie up a bunch of stuff. So let me do this zucchini first so it doesn't get damaged, and then we'll go through. Okay, so I've been trellising the zucchinis up these poles, and as you can see, all I've been doing is taking the main stem and tying it up as it gets longer. So we're sort of up around. You don't want to bend it, and you don't want to damage the fruit that's there either. So, and all I use is old t-shirts that I cut up. So now this has been not tied up for, I should have tied it up before now, which is why the leaves are all sort of bending funny. But then what you can do when you do that is you can cut away some of the bottom leaves, and then you got better airflow, which means less chance of mildew in the zucchini, and it makes it easy to see the fruit. But I don't know if we can see, so it's up here, but what I'm getting, let me see if I can zoom this, or I'll swap over to the other camera maybe. So anyway, that's how we do it, was we just tie it up nice and gently like that. Okay, so let me swap cameras again. This is going to be a bit of a messy video. We're just trying to get it done. So the problem I'm having with the rats too is that they're actually eating the flowers off the end. So they're not going to get pollinated if they don't have a flower and a stamen to be pollinated. So bringing them up like this might help with that, because they're not going to be dragging on the ground as well. But they're chewing this one obviously got pollinated at least somewhat. I'll let it go a little bit longer and I'll see. This one had the chance to be pollinated because the flower is still attached. But yeah, this one has had it chewed off, and I don't know whether it will have been pollinated beforehand. So we're getting quite a few that are not. There's one there that hasn't been pollinated as well. I'm going to pick that one today because that one's been pollinated. But yeah, we're getting a few. There was a couple of the zucchinis over in this one, I think, that I noticed. Yeah, look. So this one's been chewed off. This one, we're getting some pollination that's not working real well, and then when they are being pollinated, they're being chewed at. And like that one, the flower got chewed off as well, which is probably part of the problem. These ones have chewed bits as well, so it's very frustrating. This one over here, the whole tops of them have been chewed off, and so anyway, I think they're chewing off some of the bean plants too, because some of the bean plants are, yeah, see if you look here, there's the bean plants are being chewed off at the tops by something. So yeah, anyway, we're working on sorting that out and trying to figure it out, but by putting them up the posts, it might help as well limit that. Alrighty, so I've done this bed now to show you. So each of the zucchini plants, I've cut all the leaves below the last harvested fruit. Now I'm hoping this might help with the mice as well, because now there's no overhanging leaves. All the leaves are everywhere. I will take them to the animals. And then I put a tie on each one below the fruit to attach it to those poles. So I've strung up all of them where I can, and tried to take any fruit that's not going to do anything off. This one I'll leave for a couple of days and just see what happens, same as that one above that's got the little bit of a chew mark in it. They will heal over if they're left long enough. I haven't tied this one yet, so I need to tie that one to this pole. But these have been tied on as well. So see, like this one's not going to do anything because it's been chewed half off. This one probably won't either because it's been chewed. But I did grab a bunch of them. Excuse the mess as per usual. So like this one wasn't properly pollinated, so the end does this, but it's still edible. And there's a couple that have got like a little bit of chew mark that has then healed over, and I'll just cut the tops off those and give them a good wash. Again, same thing, I'll cut the bits that are damaged off, give them a good wash. This one, same thing. So I'll use these within the next day that I've harvested them, and they'll be fine as is with just those bits cut off them. Alright, so that one's tied up as well now. Now some of these are a little bit more bush-like than others. Like there's a lot of flowers and potential fruit there, but they'll part of that's because I was a bit slack on tying them up. I also noticed that some of them are growing some good little root suckers out of the stems because they were against the ground, but we don't want that. We want them to go up, and that way as they go up too, I've got the potential to plant things in underneath because all the foliage will be up high. So as they're dying off, I can plant things in underneath, and then I'll probably do another run of zucchinis somewhere else because we'll have time to run a second lot of them. So I'm just going to go through and prune this one as well to make sure nothing's overhanging, so that we have the same potential removal of mice. In regards to my cabbages, I'm fighting a losing battle now. There's a couple that look okay, but there's some that are completely decimated. Look at that one. Oh, camera tripod's unsteady. So yeah, I've sort of given up a bit now and have left them there as maybe if they land on here, they won't go elsewhere. They'll stay in this bed. Wishful thinking. I do check for caterpillars and stuff, but I can't seem to find them early enough to really help any. So it's just, yeah, anyway, we'll ignore that. The beets, we might cut them out soon and just feed them to the pigs. The beet leaves are doing really well. They're really tasty to use. We don't have much in the way of bulbs, but it could be that the soil was just a little bit too rich for the beetroots like it was for the radishes. We'll see. The peppers are doing well. We've got lots of flowers and stuff on the peppers, though I don't know if they're actually doing anything. We will see what happens with those. The tomatoes, heaps of flowers but not a whole lot of fruit. Again, not real sure whether we're going to get much from these. They've still got this heavy curling, and where the flowers are, I just don't see much fruit production. Like this whole trellis down here, we got one big tomato and it looks really nice, but we shall see. Anyway, we're just letting it go. And then we've had some problems with, again, the rats. So and there's nothing I can do about it on this because the trellis goes to the ground on the back, so I can't stop them from being able to get into these beds. So we shall see how we go there. But yeah, so basil and everything's coming along nicely. Anytime I see one start to flower, I've just been plucking the flower off for the moment, down to the next grow spot. But I will come through and harvest a whole lot down, and hopefully they'll flourish back as well. The other bed with the really curly tomatoes. Again, we've got some tomatoes, but this one's had a bug in it too. I'm going to have to get a black light to check for hornworms one night. But yeah, these tomato plants are really not doing great. So I'm lucky the other ones are. The jalapenos are alright. This basil's doing really well. Again, we're getting a lot of flowering though because of the temperatures. So I need to come in and do a cull back of all of these. I'm happy to eat the bits that flower as well, but we do want to get more production out of it if possible. So I need to cut these back so that they will have another flush. Cucumbers are doing well. We've even got some of the silver slices coming in, which I haven't tried before, but apparently quite nice. So we'll give that a go. We have had some rat and mice issues with them too, and that's probably because I let some trail over the side, so I may have to either rope them up or cut them off or figure out what I want to do there. But we still are getting a fair few cucumbers, so we shall see. The beans, as I showed before, are being chomped on as well. I did notice that there was a plant that had a few beans on it, but the beans aren't looking real great, so this bed may just be a bit of a write-off for all of that. We haven't had much luck with beans here, to be honest, and I haven't grown any pole beans this year so far either, so we will give it another go somewhere. But for the moment, this bed the cucumbers are doing really well, but nothing else is. Wicking beds are taking off quite a bit with all this rain, so they're getting top watered as well. Everything's looking pretty good because it's a bit cooler too, so we got silver beet, and the lettuce is looking like it's looking, spinach, silver beet, and the zinnias and stuff coming in there, so we're pretty okay with that. I got this one covered. This is those other cabbages and the sprouting broccoli, but there is something getting into them as well. I just pulled this over the top for the moment, but I need to put taller hoops on it because everything's resting on everything at the moment. And this isn't actually I have a lot finer insect netting than I normally put over this sort of thing. This was just a really quick spur of the moment kind of thing. Tomato beds. So unfortunately, every year I say I don't know whether I'll grow these again because I always have the same problem, and that is blossom end rot. Now, blossom end rot is a calcium deficiency, but it's not like there's plenty of calcium available in the soil. I've got plenty of calcium available in the soil. What it is inconsistent watering stops the plant from transporting that calcium to the fruit effectively, and then you get blossom end rot. And it's so disheartening to get it. I haven't found that it's affected every fruit on every plant, so for the moment I'm just pulling the fruit that I see off. But if it looks to be getting out of hand, I may end up just pulling these plants because I do have Tommy Toes left in the hothouse still, and Tommy Toes are such a good producer that they're just cherry tomatoes, but that it might be worth just giving up on paste tomatoes, which is, I only have the blossom end rot issues, generally speaking, with the elongated tomatoes. With the paste tomatoes, I don't seem to have the same issue with the larger tomatoes. So I don't know, I need to tie these tomatoes up too. They're starting to fall down. I could really do with some sucker cleaning up as well, but I've been a bit slack. And so there is some that look fine still, but there's also, like, look, that one's gone. This one as well. This one. So yeah, I've pulled a whole bunch off, and it's very annoying. Other than that, the plants look good. Lots of flowers. They're not anywhere near as curly as the others, and I don't know. The peppers are all looking good. These were the new variety that I planted, these ones, and I'm not real happy with them. I haven't been real happy with them the whole time. They're a bit curly. They're a bit spindly. No flowers, but we'll see, because that was the Gilberti paste. I haven't tried growing them before, so we'll give them a go and see how they go. The basil and the Kajari melons are doing really well here. Again, I need to tie some of these. We got a melon there, so I need to tie these up. There's a frog somewhere I can hear. And then, look, we've still got bags everywhere. I keep on saying every week I'm going to get them cleaned up, and I don't, do I? Cherry tomatoes, all looking pretty healthy. All the basil's looking pretty good underneath. There was that lone silver beet plant that was in there. These could all do with a tie up before they start pushing too much fruit, otherwise they will fall over. But all this basil and everything here looks really good. These were some beefsteak tomatoes in this other bed, and these are looking a lot better than some of the others. And I'm quite glad that I planted out more of these varieties in these beds, because they seem to be doing pretty well. Again, these peppers too. So these are the guajillo peppers, which are in the other bed, but that are all curly, and they're looking really good here. So I'm glad that I've double planted some of those. Silver beet, marigold, everything's looking good. Quick run to this bed. Again, we got cherry tomatoes, again, all looking really good. Could probably do with a tie up, just a loose one, so that they don't fall over with any more rain. And these were the extra paprika peppers in here, some extra basil. Everything's looking good. There's a couple of the paprikas that, like this one here and this one here, that didn't make it, but that's fine. It happens. And then these are the couple of extra beefsteak tomatoes as well, and the Kellogg's. So those Kellogg's looking really good. Those are the ones that I planted out really early, and the only 3 that I got out of like a 20 pack of seeds. They're looking really good, so hopefully they do well for me. A couple of extra peppers in the basils, some of it's looking better than others, and then some of those delicatas there as well. The wicking buckets are all looking good. We've got a couple of fruit, like this watermelon there. I really need to get that thing, it's something soft for the edge of the tub there for that one. So, but all the watermelon is starting to take off, which is nice. And then I found a couple of pumpkins. This bucket here is doing really well, and I found a couple of pumpkins in here, which is neat. So that will be cool if that all goes to plan. These beds are doing okay. The zinnias are dying off. I knew they would. They were the ones that I was saying were, but everything else is doing okay. And again, with the slightly cooler weather, the spinach and the silver beet and lettuce and everything is doing okay here too. There are those 2 extra Brandywine tomatoes, and again, they look heaps better than the ones over in those first beds. So we'll see. Strawberries still haven't really done anything though, so don't know whether they're going to come through or not. They're getting plenty of water, so who knows. All the herbs and perennials lived, even though we missed that watering, but the rain has helped, and I wetted these beds down pretty well, but I hadn't gotten to mulching them yet, so I was a little concerned. But they're doing all right. Peppermint's doing all right. That sage is still alive, which is nice, and that's sort of going okay. Arnica, parsley, echinacea, bergamot, all of these all seem to have. The only thing that doesn't seem to have done anything. Oh no, look, there's new green. Yay! So that was the warrigal greens that I got a cutting from Robin, and then I put it in a pot, and it took a while to take off. It took off, and then the rats or the mice ate it in the hothouse. But there was one little green nodule on it, so I decided I was going to try planting it, and it looks like it will take off. So warrigal greens tend to grow really well once they get going, so I'm pretty happy with that. And then some other cornflowers and bergamot and echinacea and stuff in these ones. So everything here is looking good too, considering I didn't get it mulched or anything. And the rhubarb has tolerated its change of position again. The little tiny one's doing quite well, and this one's recovering. So yeah. So overall, I'm pretty happy with everything. The rain has definitely helped. I wouldn't have the energy to be watering at the moment. And Darryl doesn't want to go too far from home to fetch water at the moment either. So I don't want to deplete the tank for watering gardens either. So I'm glad that we're getting this intermittent rain. We still don't have the drill bit for the irrigation because that ended up being, put on the back burner a little bit. But I also don't want the garden to go to waste. So whilst I don't really have the energy or the headspace to do too much out here, I'm just doing minimal. I'm glad for the rain because it means that it will continue to progress. And if I lost it, give me, a week to get over all of this, and I'd be really, really upset with myself that the garden had gone downhill that much, sort of thing. So I'm glad that it's doing well. I'm glad that there's still progress. I'm glad that we got the rain. I'm glad, that sort of thing. So anyway, that's the update from me. Hopefully I will start having some food videos over the next few days because I need to process food anyway, so I may as well film it and then get to editing it and putting it up, because of course the income from YouTube helps us to do Christmas as well. So, it's important in that sort of a sense, but it's also important because everyone's looking out for me and I want to keep in contact and that as well. So it is a community that I have, found within the people that make sure that I'm okay and make sure that everything's going okay and all that sort of stuff. So, and I'm very grateful for everyone who reached out while we were stuck, and sorry that I couldn't respond to everyone at the time, but yeah, so everything's a little bit flat at the moment still, just getting past it all, but in general everything should be fine. And hopefully now that we've had that size fire in the immediate vicinity, we won't get another one this fire season because most of the low-lying fuel will have been used up, but you never know. So we're going to try and make sure to prepare just in case. So anyway, I will talk to you all later, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks, guys.